Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Yeah, that's right, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew. Brand new show here on the Brewing Network, hopefully. This is our little pilot excursion into the realm of beer radio. I'll be your host, Jason J.P. Petros. And again, like I said, this is Dr. Homebrew, the show that breaks down your homebrewed beer. The purpose of the show is to for you as homebrewers to get feedback on the beer that you're brewing. A lot of times you enter a beer in a competition and you either have a question about your BJCP score sheet, or maybe you don't enter competitions. I know we have a few people that we've done shows with in the past, and a lot of friends who just don't get a chance to enter, or are too lazy to, or, you know, I don't know, maybe a combination of the both. But hopefully they won't be too lazy to give us their beer. And the format of the show is I am the host, and then I will have 2 other highly qualified, way more qualified than myself, BJCP judges in the room with me, or at least on the outs, highly qualified tasters. But today, I do have 2 very special guests. I have Lee Shepard and Brian Cooper.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey.
I got nervous for a sec, Lee. I got your last name wrong.
We also have Carl Pilkington, I think. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. That's not.
So you guys are... What ranks? BJCP
Master.
Master
Judge, yep.
2 masters. Look at this. So, look, if these guys can't give you help on your beer, I don't know who can. But it's not only BJCP scores, it's also, you know, if you want help with your recipes, which is, you know, hard to get. I know some of you have gotten score sheets that say, oh, well, you know, this could be a good oatmeal stout, but if you use half an ounce more of Crystal 39 malt, and you're like, that's not even in the beer, dude. That's not.
Yeah. When judges go guessing, you know, ingredients and processes, I mean, you can't assume anything. I just graded my first set of exams, actually, and it's, you know, you get people just throwing in all these things like, how do you know that? And yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that's my favorite. And but that's the point of the show, is to give you honest and interactive feedback. And I think that's the difference here between this show and just, you know, you sending your beer in and us kind of talking about it on the air and telling you about it. It's interactive. It's supposed to be you ask us questions. So along with the beer that you send in, I'll get your home address and your personal phone number, and I will call you directly and hassle you and get you on the air. And so you can interact with the judges. These guys can ask you questions. You can ask questions of them, and maybe 1 or 2 to me. I don't know if I can answer it. And that's really the point. We want to bring you on the air. We want to talk about your beer with you, not at you on a sheet from, you know, 1,000 miles away. So, yeah, that's the format. And we hope it's going to be a real good show. So, Brian, tell me a little bit about your judging experience. How long have you been a judge?
I've been judging for about 4 years, and have run a couple of BJCP judging courses, study groups, and we're doing another one coming up shortly here. So we've got a good group of people coming up here in the Bay Area, and yeah, so just like getting into the judge education aspect of it, and achieved master rank right after the San Diego NHC. So that was a nice little
3 years ago or so?
Piece of mail to come back to 2011. So yeah.
Oh wow, has it been?
Yeah, it's only been. Yeah,
they all run together after a while.
San Diego and then Seattle.
Wow, that's nice. And Lee, what about you?
I've been judging for about 15 years now. Actually got into it originally not necessarily to judge, more just to learn how to improve my brewing, because it was a good way to learn what's in there, just to learn how to taste it.
Yeah.
So been doing that for 15 years. Just got master this past year, actually. And yeah, that's about it. Been brewing for about 20 odd years.
Wow. Who's a better judge between you and Brian over here? Just between you and I. I'll mute everybody, and only I'll hear the answer.
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah, that's
Jeff
right.
Is actually a really good judge too.
We have Jeff here, who will be a guest, I think, on the next show, or was it on this show? I forget. I don't know. I think on this show. Yeah, but anyway, you'll hear from Jeff, and you'll hear about his beer more importantly. But If you hear another voice, it'll be Jeff chiming in. And you're a judge, too, as well?
Yeah, I'm a certified judge.
Certified judge?
Yep.
All right. Hey, so am I.
Sweet.
All right. No, I'm recognized. Shit. Low man on the totem
Give us a
pole.
broad spectrum of judging levels here in the house. There are some recognized and certified judges that will take you for a ride sometimes on a beer and just, right there with any level you got. I mean, it's not... Sometimes it's about how good you are at taking tests and,
That's right. And I'm awful at it. I'll show you my high school transcript and my junior college transcript, which should tell you enough.
Yeah.
So tonight, the beers we're doing is one from a good guy named Mark, and he gave us I'll just call it a specialty beer, and we'll introduce it after this break. And then the other is a Weizenbock from Jeff, right? That's the beer we're doing for you? All right. So I'll tell you what, let's take a break real fast, and we're going to jump into Mark's beer after this. It's Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
Nico, listen, our lawyers said that we had to do this for 1 hour, and after this, we don't have to talk to each other for 3 more months to the next meeting.
Kids, come on, let's get out of here.
I'm supposed to have more lines. I'm the professional. Hey, it's Sully.
And I'm Nico.
And we opened the 21st Amendment 9 years ago at 563 2nd Street in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park, to make great beer and have a great time doing it.
That's right, because to us, the 21st Amendment is more than just the right to make beer. It's the right to experiment, to be innovative, and just do things differently. And so now, we're putting our craft beer in cans.
That's right, cans. You can find our world-famous Hell or High Watermelon Wheat Beer and Brew Free or Die IPA throughout California and Alaska.
And now it's also available on draft at select accounts in the Bay Area.
So next time you're at your local neighborhood pub or good beer store, be sure to ask for 21st Amendment in cans.
Because everyone likes it in the can.
Tasty crack cans.
Tasty crack can.
What'd you get? More brewing ingredients?
Yep. You know what I love about Brewmaster's Warehouse?
The $6.99 shipping?
Well, yeah, but...
the in-store classes for beginning brewers.
Yeah, that's cool, but...
The Brew Builder. Creating and saving your recipes online is awesome!
No, yes, but...
The cheese-making supplies.
No.
The wine-making supplies. The distilling equipment and liquor flavorings.
All that stuff is awesome, yes, but what I really love is that the guy who runs it is totally hot. And that Brew Builder software is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Brewmaster's Warehouse brings you flat rate shipping on great equipment and ingredients to make beer, wine, cheese, and spirits at brewmasterswarehouse.com. And if you're in Georgia, stop by Brewmaster's Warehouse Monday through Saturday from 10 to 6. Visit brewmasterswarehouse.com today because it's totally hot.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and we're back with Dr. Homebrew, which is the best name I can come up with for the show, let's be honest. It's not great, but I like it. I think it's fun. People go, is it you? I didn't think that you were that big of a homebrew. No, it's not me. It's the collective. We are the Borg.
He's working his way up to it just by hanging out with us.
I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it all out. With us on the line, we have our first homebrew guest, Mark. Are you there, Mark?
Yes, sir.
All right. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well, actually. We're trying your beer, which, as I teased before the break, is a specialty beer. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what this beer is?
Well, it's a beer that my girlfriend kind of was nagging me to do. It's a caramel apple winter ale.
A caramel apple winter ale. Now,
Yes, sir.
I'll be honest, when you first sent me that in the email about what this is, I was like, oh, shit. What did I get myself into? But I kind of actually really enjoy it.
Oh, great.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm jumping the gun. How long have you been homebrewing, man? Tell me a little bit about your homebrewing experience.
I'm 23 now, and since the day I turned 21, I've been homebrewing, so...
Admit it, it was the day before.
What's that?
It was one day before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, well.
He's probably homebrewing at like 16.
We just can't say it on the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you do extract or all grain?
All grain now.
All grain now. And was this beer brewed with an all grain setup?
Yes.
What setup do you have? Like a partial mash or?
I've got a 15-gallon water cooler that I use for a mash tun with a 12-gallon pot and a turkey fryer.
That's all you need.
Yep.
That's pretty good. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about the beer. You mentioned it was something your girlfriend was nagging you about. How did you put everything together?
Oh, well, I try to think of something that was not going to be too hoppy and try and kind of stay along the seasons. Do you want me to give off the recipe, or?
No, I think we can get into the recipe later. I think after we go through the judging.
Okay.
Yeah. Just want a little background on the beer. Brian, why don't you kick us off? What do you smell in this beer? We're just going to go down the sheet, I guess, for the format for the show. Is just straight down the BJCP sheet and right to the bottom there. So let's talk about the aroma.
Well, and the base style is declared as a pale ale, right? That was
yes, sir.
Winter ale is kind of not a BJCP style, but that's okay. So I mean the aroma, I really love it. I think it's got a nice strong apple flavor. A moderately strong spice character that's in balance with that apple, kind of a cinnamony and vaguely all spicy kind of thing going on in there. And yeah, it just smells like mom's apple pie. It's pretty good. I'm not really getting any hops or, it might be covered up by the spice. There might be a light kind of
there's very little
neutral,
hops in here.
Earthy hop or something in there. But yeah, it's just hiding under the other stuff, which is prominent and really nicely in balance for what it is. So
yeah, I agree. Lee, what do you think?
I agree with that more or less. I mean, it's got a really nice apple and spice flavor, some caramel in it. Very nice aromas, actually. It's really kind of nice to get a good sniff of this stuff. No hops, or very little hop aroma. I was curious, so we were told as a pale ale, is this supposed to be more an English or an American-style pale ale? This would probably be more English, maybe? If you're talking winter warmer especially, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It smells really nice, though. Did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think, it almost smells like a cider. I mean, it really has a strong apple character, but it does have that. What's nice is that it has the name, right? I mean, you've got the caramel apple, and that's what it smells like, which is exactly what you want in a beer.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote down on my sheet, and I didn't fill it out like a judge. I just wrote stupid questions. Should you be getting some malt aroma out of this? And maybe it goes to Lee's point: is it an English pale ale or is it American pale ale base?
I'm not sure, honestly, what to call it.
Yeah,
yeah. The malt is definitely in there supporting. It's not like it's like water with apple and cinnamon flavors in it. It's beer. It definitely has there's a caramelly malt presence in addition to the caramel. And I'm interested to talk about the recipe at some point later here. But it's but the caramel is lighter than the apple character. Apple is on top, I think, then spice and then caramel. But it's really nice combination.
I think that's what you'd want in a beer like this. A caramel apple beer. You don't want to just eat a bunch of caramel.
The sweetness of the apple kind of invites you in, and caramel has to be in balance with that.
And the appearance is, it looks like a darker pale or so, right? Help me out with that. What would you call that?
Light brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of a dark amber, light brownish color.
It's a color of a caramel candy. That's what it looks like.
It's fairly cloudy, which I think makes it look a little darker. I don't know if JP had it bouncing around his car earlier today, but
I did, as a matter of fact. I had it laid down sideways too, like a real professional, like a real professional cellarman.
He thought it was Hefeweizen, and he rolled the bottle.
So yeah, we'll blame JP for that. I assume this is normally perfectly clear.
Please do.
Yeah. Nice kind of slightly off-white head. It fades pretty fast, but it's a nice color.
Yeah, fine bubbles. Yeah.
Let's move on to flavor. Now, I got kind of a tart flavor, and I wasn't sure if that was from the apples. I'm assuming it's from the apples. What kind of apples do you use, Mark?
Crisps or something like that.
Are they fairly tart apple, or are they just more on the sweet side? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little tart, not a bite, but it's it's definitely a little light tartness in there that really, with bouncing off the sweetness, is really pleasant and fun.
But it moves really well from the apple, which is the first impression I get, and then into the caramel, and then kind of into the spices, the apple pie that we were talking about during the break.
It's that little apple bite, and then a nice little caramel in the middle, and then that spice on the finish, on the aftertaste. And it finishes kind of semi-sweet. It's kind of medium sweet. It's not dry at all. It's enough sweetness to support all those other flavors and make it real pleasant.
Yeah, and that tart works really nice with the little bit of spice that's in there too. It helps balance that off. Yep. It's interesting. I don't know if it's perception just coming from all the apple and caramel, just gets you thinking along these lines. But the malt character in here seems kind of bready, almost toasty, almost like a pie crust. Really, it comes across like that. And I don't know if that was intentional or if we're just sort of focusing our brains on that by throwing in all this apple pie goodies. But it works. It's very nice.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
How did you? What did you do with the apples? Tell us about that a little bit.
Actually, it's part apple cider and part whole apples. I took 4 apples and chopped them up real small so there'd be enough surface area in contact with the beer. Added that into secondary along with 4 cups of apple cider.
Was it homemade cider?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
Of course it was.
It was 5 gallons?
Yeah, it was 5. Actually, it was 6 gallon vents.
That's a lot of apple flavor from not so much stuff.
Yeah. And then what did you do with the apple? Did you put it in like a secondary?
Yeah.
You dry appled?
Yes.
For how long?
4 days.
Yeah, that is a lot of apple for that.
That's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fresh apple taste. It really tastes like taking a bite out of an apple. And I'm intrigued by the spice as well, and it's really in balance. But I'd like to know what spices you're using in there and what method you use to put them in there, because they're really. Sometimes you get a spice beer that's just so overwhelming with this, the spice, and it just destroys the beer. It could be a really great base beer, and then you get the spice, and it just knocks you on your butt, and it's like just all these spicy phenolics.
It's funny you asked that, because I took JP's advice from the Pumpkin Ale show. There's only cinnamon here in this beer.
Okay.
I made a 3-ounce tincture with 3 sticks of cinnamon in vodka, and then added that into the keg.
Is it the common cinnamon that you get in grocery stores, or is it's not imported, like real crazy cinnamon from Asia or something?
Wow, apparently I give good advice every once in a while.
Nice going.
I would never have thought. I don't remember. I don't even remember that show. So that's awesome. Well, I'm glad it worked out for you, and I'm glad you're not blaming anything. That's good news. Let's talk mouthfeel.
Let's talk mouthfeel.
Let's do it,
Lee.
It's a kind of medium mouthfeel. It's actually I don't know whether it's from all the apples, probably the crystal, the caramel malts, whatever you put in here. It's got a fairly substantial mouthfeel. I mean, it's not like a bock, but it's pretty thick. Not really thick, but it's not a thin beer like you'd expect from some pale ales. Its carbonation levels is pretty low, actually. That's probably maybe the only actual issue I might have with this beer is it's halfway to being flat, which is too bad. Although it hasn't destroyed the flavor anyways. It'd be interesting to see what this was like if the carbonation was pumped all the way up. But it's nice and creamy. Don't really have much astringency or anything bad going on there. Maybe a little bit of drying in the finish from that, from the spices or that vodka shot that got put in there. But not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. It's not really warming. It's just sort of low medium body. It's Brian, what are you getting there?
Strength-wise, it doesn't seem there's no real big warmth or anything there. But the body is kind of the medium to medium full range. Well, it's not a range. It's kind of in between medium full. It's not super full, but it's definitely a little higher than medium body-wise. And which is cool because sometimes adding things that are much more fermentable, like sugars and ciders. I mean, apple juice will ferment out to nothing in most yeast, and so I would think the fear with this beer would be that you'd get something really dry and just it would kill the beer because you wouldn't have that sweetness left behind anymore.
Yeah, you dodge that pitfall well.
Yeah, that's nice. The sweetness is there and the body is there. That's kind of connected things in the flavor and the mouthfeel. But I agree. The carbonation is a little low, and it might just be a sample issue on this bottle. But a bit creamy, a little hint of astringency, probably from the spices. Nothing weird, no heat or crazy. It's fairly smooth. It's not really crisp or anything. It's just smooth drinking. Makes you want to take another sip.
Cool.
Great. All right, let's move to the final part, which is the overall impression, and then we'll start helping Mark here with how to get better. Jeff, why don't you jump in? Give me your overall impression of this caramel apple winter wonderland.
Yeah, I think my overall impression was kind of similar on the aroma. It's the nice thing about beer is when you kind of call out that you want a caramel apple beer is that it tastes like a caramel apple.
Yeah.
Right? So I think my overall impression is that it's it's a pretty, I'd say it's a very good beer. It's in that very good kind of 30 to 37 range. It's pretty pleasant. I think the carbonation, Lee was onto that, probably pumped that up a little bit. I think you'd actually get a lot more of the aroma kind of popping through, which would be cool.
Right. Yeah, the CO2 is definitely going to deliver a little bit more of those flavor components. And if you overdo it, then it'll be too much and you get a carbonic bite that will fight with your other elements. But I do agree, that it's a very pleasant drinking beer, kind of in the range Jeff's talking about, very good range. But, if you bumped up the carbonation, it may well. And, maybe the sample, are you drinking a sample over there with us, Mark?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, good man.
Does yours have the same low carbonation?
A lot more carbonation. I was afraid that those bottles were going to be a little undercarbonated. But mine's just right.
We'll open
we got a second bottle here. Let's see if it's a bottle to bottle.
That's a third bottle,
just to be safe. Yeah.
Maybe you already drank one.
Yeah. I'm chugging it in the back. Did you?
Yeah.
Let's pop
open it by the mic. It's a little hiss.
It's not bad.
A little bit, yeah.
Did you bottle condition, Mark, or you just bottle?
No, I bottled it off the spigot and then capped them and sent them to you.
Yeah, that's probably why. There's probably much more carbonated in the keg. All right, so Jeff, give you a 35, 37, is that what you said? That's pretty good.
I'd go, 34. That's
34. Right. That's not bad. That's usually what I get on my stupid, dumb score sheets for jerks.
I'm pretty excited about that. This is the first beer I've ever actually had anybody score, so.
Awesome.
It's maybe a little more carbonated in the second bottle.
It does seem a little peppier, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
And that hiss is definitely something you listen for as a judge when you're judging. It's just a little indicator. It doesn't,
Yeah, actually, could you hear that?
Yeah.
Good.
Mics are pretty good.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I thought this is pretty good. I'd probably put it in that mid-30s range. Very good myself. Jeff is right. You kind of nailed the thing, which is tough to do. What you have to do with a specialty beer, you're saying it's this on this style is you got the expression of your specialty goodies in here, and you got them coming out really well. It's a really good job on that. The apple flavors, the spice, the bready, caramelly malt, it's all really great. What might help to improve this, one thing is just sort of verbal. What are you going to call it? Pale ale? It makes me first think American Pale Ale, which really is a hoppier beer, usually a little paler. That may, if you were going to enter this in a comp, I wouldn't really choose that as the style to put this in. I mean, American Amber Ale might be closer. It tends to be darker, caramelier, less hoppy. Maybe even like an Irish Red or just an English Pale Ale, especially if you're thinking in your head that winter warmer kind of route. That's a English Pale Ale kind of tradition. So that might help focus the judges on the base style in a better direction for this beer than calling it a pale ale, and they're going to be expecting something that's pale and hoppy.
Yeah,
American style.
Just off the cuff, what score range would you give this thing?
Mid-30s. Yeah.
Just make him commit to a score here.
Okay, let's say 36.
All right,
that's a good place for this.
There you go.
And it'd probably bump up a few to several points, maybe even to the excellent range. You've got the carbonation up, the haze down, and the style to where it was sort of matching expectations.
All right.
I think that's kind of where this beer could be.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, I actually just went through a score sheet. So if anyone wants to go to bjcp.org, you can pull up a beer score sheet, and you can look at what we're looking at here, too. And we have score sheets in front of us, which is what we would do, except we'd be writing a lot more on them instead of talking about everything. But I've gone through the score sheet and kind of just placed it where I think I would place all the elements of this. So I'll go through it. Aroma, I would give it a solid 8 out of 12 because it's a very inviting aroma, nicely... Pretty much everything's nicely balanced in there, and the appearance I would give it a 1 out of 3 because it's a little darker than I would expect for a pale ale if it was entered as an American pale ale, a little cloudy and the low head but yeah, you could definitely get 3 out of 3 if you just got it cleared up and fix those other issues. But flavor wise, I loved it. I mean, I give it a nice solid 15 out of 20. Everything there that I expect. It tastes like mom's apple pie, like I said. So that's what I would expect for a beer called that. And the mouthfeel is pretty much right on for what you'd expect as well. Body carbonation was a little low, so I'd knock it out on point for that. But everything else it's nice and creamy and smooth drinking, so I'd give it a 4 out of 5 there. And then overall impression is just like another at the end where you kind of like, what does this beer really say to you? Is it I give it an 8 out of 10 there, which adds up to 36 as well. So I think that's a good place to put it. I mean, and if we were judging together, maybe Jeff, we could twist Jeff's arm really hard and get him, but yeah, we wouldn't try to strong arm him to do that either. I mean, a 34 with 2 36s would come out to like a 35 something.
Within statistical error there. Yeah.
Right. So, great beer. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That was great. I hesitate to go over mine because I haven't really judged in a long time, but one comment I made on the overall impression was it tasted a lot like a spiced cider. And for a beer, I would want it to be, the finish was very dry, very appley, and that's where I got the spice cider. So, if it was a pale ale, I think that's what Lee was saying was bump the style up a little bit, and I think you can get more of a backbone behind it because you have all the accoutrement, if you will, for you have the caramel flavoring, you have the apple, you have the spice. That's all layered really, really well. But for me, it just kind of at the end tastes like a spiced cider. And what I didn't do beforehand, Mark, and I apologize, is I didn't ask you what you wanted to get out of this. We're all just kind of telling you what to do. But in our email conversation earlier, you were saying that you just want to figure out how to improve the recipe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we're guiding you in that in that direction where you're like, look, I just wanted to know about bottling, and we're picking apart your beer. But no, I think overall, I think it was great. I just split hairs and I would go 35 just to be a jerk.
All right.
But I think it was a very good beer, and I really appreciate you sending it in.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of your comments there, JP. And yeah, one thing that you're looking for is to make sure that when you declare a style, that at least that style is going to be supporting everything else that's there. If your beer is just a bland base to deliver all the caramel and apple and spice, well then okay, great, enter it as something else besides a beer. But I mean, it's definitely a beer, and it's not. It is a little on the cidery side, like you said. So if it had more of that pale ale style, whether you declared English pale ale or you picked some other style that you want to make it taste like, that maybe blends it even better with the caramel and apple flavors, and you get both the base style in balance with these flavors, then it can be really something wonderful and get up into that 40-point range. So
yeah, I agree. Mark, do you have any last questions for the guys before we get out of here?
As far as like trying to get it into those categories, what would I honestly do to get it up there? Just kind of boost up the hop character, or
well, if you wanted to make it an American pale ale, yeah, you'd have to add some of those classic American style hops, or something enough to at least give it that kind of a presence. In an English one, you could add less hops, and you'd get the presence you needed. And actually, some of those hops might almost work better here. It's either that. I mean, if you're totally into the pale ale concept, that's kind of where you'd have to go, and maybe a little more bittering too. If you wanted to keep the recipe because it tastes very nice as it is, then maybe you want to pick a different style, not change the recipe.
Yeah, I don't know why
It's
you
up
want
to
to rush it into a pale ale, because I think it comes across pretty good as it is, right? If you throw a bunch of hops in here, then you're starting to get some clashing flavors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like it's an apple caramel imperial mild or something, right? I mean, it's got that nice malt character, and I think too much bitter would probably take away from it.
Yeah, well, especially the wrong bitter, like you were saying, if you have some of those, C hops or whatever, you throw the wrong hop in here, you're going to skew everything. It'll be a caramel orange.
Yeah, try with some different styles that you think will complement it, but probably not the hoppier styles, and maybe even something like an amber ale would be great. You could get some of the caramelly from the caramel malt in an amber ale and have it really work that way, and not a hoppy one. So
so you did a good job with this one, because we're not. We're all trying to talk you into not calling it a pale ale. It's great as it is. Find the name that hangs on it rather than push it somewhere else.
More or less because of the crystal malts, I was like, all right, well, I guess we could call it a pale ale. But
No, it works really well. And I mean, you went to all the effort to get that apple and that spice come through like that. Why buried under a bunch of hops? It's just going to not work with it. Mm-hmm. Well, it might. I don't know. But yeah.
What do you think, Mark? To answer your questions?
Oh, yeah.
Did we help you out?
Oh, yeah,
all
definitely.
Right. Well, if you rebrew it again, hopefully we'll get you back on the show, and we'd like to do a little follow-up, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was a good beer. I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks again, man, for sending it in.
No problem.
For sending it in. I didn't run those together. I just can't enunciate. All right, buddy. Take care.
Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
All right, Mark. Thanks, man. That was awesome. We are up against another break, so let's do that. And then on the other side, we're going to have Jeff Weizenbach. Stick around, everybody. It's Dr. Homebrew.
Williams Brewing is your online resource for prompt delivery of quality home brewing supplies. Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients, and the best customer service in the business. Cut hours off your brewing sessions by using one of their 11 varieties of famous Williams malt extract. Their new Snap-Lock stainless steel cam-lock fittings will make connecting your pump or heat exchanger quick and easy. Or check out their exclusive paintball tank-based draft beer equipment. They even have their own line of precision hydrometers. Go to williamsbrewing.com to browse their vast selection. That's williamsbrewing.com. Orders placed by 4 p.m. Pacific Time weekdays ship the same day. Brewing is easy. The Williams way.
Hey, dude, you know what beer this is?
No, all the labels are falling off.
Yeah, or the ink is run.
Well, if it's a pale ale, you're good, but stay away from the quote-unquote Belgian.
Oh, man, this guy needs to get some grog tags.
Grog tags are reusable, write-on, wipe-off, commercial-grade bottle labels for your brew. The guys at Grog Tag are homebrewers. They wanted great-looking, sturdy labels for your bottles, buckets, carboys, kegs, and growlers. They also wanted a label that not only looks good, but can be easily removed and reapplied during bottling without that nasty glue residue being left behind. No residue, water-resistant, and ice chest approved. Grog tags stay on in water or an ice chest, and they stay legible. Visit grogtag.com to customize your label or coaster from dozens of different templates for free and see how awesome your bottles can look.
It's that pseudo-Belgian.
Yeah, we're getting him some grog tags, dude.
Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good. grogtag.com.
All right, it's Dr. Homebrew, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. Once again, big thanks to Mark for not only shipping us caramel apple beer, but a couple other tasty treats that, of course, I too much of an asshole and didn't share with anybody. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Our next guest is in studio, which is always a pleasure, and his name is Jeff. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to pretend that you have not been participating in the last half because I'm not that good of a host yet.
Who was that other Jeff?
Yeah, this is another one. That was a Jeff with a J. This is a Jeff with a G.
Absolutely.
And, all right, Jeff, so what beer do we have of yours?
So you got my Weizenbach, which is, this is the second time I've brewed it.
Second time?
Yep.
What was wrong with the first one?
First one was good.
Yeah?
Actually.
Nothing wrong with it. It's one of those repeats?
Yeah.
I've never had that.
It disappeared. That's what was wrong with it.
Yeah, exactly.
It left.
Totally disappeared.
I've never had that problem. I've always been, you know what I should do when I brew this again? Is not screw it up. And how long have you been a home brewer?
I've been brewing for about 15 years.
Wow.
Only making good beer for probably the past 5, so.
Maybe that's the question. How long, can you imagine? All right, well, thanks for shipping us your beer. How long have you been making good beer? I don't know. All right, well, let's dive into the beer then, since I'm all out of questions.
Sounds good.
We'll let Lee kick it off this time, though.
All right. Well, first thing that hit me on this beer in the nose was actually cocoa. It was kind of chocolatey. It's actually and you know, to back that up to sort of actually jump ahead a bit, it's a very dark Weizenbach, really very dark Dunkelweizen. It's kind of a nice mid-brown color.
What is a Weizenbach?
It's basically high-gravity Hefeweizen.
Okay.
The classic example, Aventinus, is sort of a mid-amber color. It's got a lot of plum raisin kind of character, you know, from the malts, and you know, it has big Hefeweizen kind of clove and banana character to the nose from the yeast.
How many lemons go in this? Because there's no lemons here, so I don't know. I couldn't tell if it's a Hef or not.
Not for the purists.
Shit.
Yeah. But, you know, you can put in several if you like. It's up to you. If you like, you can do whatever you want with it if it's your glass of beer.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put a lemon in a Schneider. It tastes pretty weird. Yeah.
Right.
There are pale versions of it, too, which basically are just like a big Hefeweizen. Like a 7 or 8% Hefeweizen. It can be very nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the nose on this, first thing that hit me was cocoa. It was very chocolatey, which kind of probably matches the color on this. I'm getting some cherry.
Yeah, like a chocolate-covered cherry.
Yeah, that's kind of the main flavor or aroma component here. Not so much on the banana, although there is a little bit of it coming through. I'm getting a little bit of the clove phenols, too, which is, banana and clove, sort of the classic Hefeweizen yeast character, and they're showing through here. Not maybe as much as I'd expect, but then again, with all that kind of cocoa going on, there's a different kind of balance going on here, I think.
Yeah.
And that's about it. No hop. You wouldn't expect it. Some nice caramelly malt.
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
Yeah, definitely the brown, kind of a brown malt, chocolatey malt kind of flavor or aroma up here in the top. And I thought when I first smelled it, I thought I got a hint of kind of a papery oxidation in it a little bit. But it seems to have dissipated, or it's just being covered up by what else is there. There's a lot of stuff going on. There is a light banana. I definitely picked that up, but yeah, it's a little lower than you might expect. So kind of a low banana ester and a very low clove phenol, but it's kind of hiding behind everything else that's there. It's got kind of a spicy alcoholic aroma to it. Yeah. It's a big beer. You can really tell just by smelling it. And I don't know. I thought maybe for a second that somebody might have dumped some of that apple beer in here. I got a little kind of a green appley little element to it. But I'm getting ahead. When I got into the flavor, there was kind of a green apple, and I came back to the aroma, and I caught a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what also may be getting a little here? You're getting a little solvent.
Yes.
A little heat. Yeah.
Yeah. And that, again, getting ahead of myself is really evident in the flavor and in the mouthfeel as well. Like some when you get a beer that has higher alcohols in it, you should get it in the aroma, but in the flavor, it can be even more prominent. And these are just higher, longer chain alcohols that are left over from the fermentation process that end up staying in the beer. And it's kind of like take a smell vodka compared to your beer, and or cheap vodka especially, and you'll get a lot of higher alcohols in that. And that's one way to dose a beer if you want to do a judging class, and dump a little vodka into a sample of beer, mix it just right. You can kind of duplicate that alcoholic aroma
or alcoholic lifestyle.
Yeah,
I guess.
But
let's jump into the flavor.
Okay,
why not?
Appearance, I think Lee did cover. We shouldn't skip that. It is on the dark side for the style. It's it can range from kind of a light, kind of a medium amber down to a brownish color. But this one's a pretty deep brown with some nice ruby highlights. It looks pretty clear. It's got a nice tan head that stuck around fairly well for such a strong beer. Yeah. Usually strong beers the head just drops because it's there's a lot of alcohol in there taking it down, but this one sticked around pretty well.
Yeah,
and,
very nice, fine, creamy head on this. It was really,
fine bubbles,
really
pretty good retention for this beer. So,
I think that has a lot to do with all the wheat that's in it, right? It really, that wheat character holds it.
The extra protein will definitely help the head on a beer.
Yeah, that's the kind of small to medium chain proteins in there that just push that head right up. But yeah, flavor. I got it. All the brown malt and a lot of the elements we talked about, the kind of chocolatiness and the light banana, and there weren't any surprises as far as the banana esters and the clove phenols. They were there. The phenols are a little more, they bite your, flavor. They accost you a little bit more in the flavor. But I got, just kind of a lightly, not tart like sour, but like kind of a acetaldehyde green apple kind of element in the flavor too. Are you getting that, Lee?
Well, I kind of wasn't, but now that you point it out,
it's
maybe
like
a little bit. Yeah,
something that's bouncing off the sweetness of the. Well, it's not really a sweet beer. It's kind of dried out in the finish, but the yeast has done its thing on it, and there's like either it's just kind of a slightly acidic beer, or there might be some. A little bit of acetaldehyde left in there.
Well, so I probably can give some hints on that. So this is an all grain brew, and it was the second time I was using my new system, and I got distracted while I was sparging, and ended up, this is a 5-gallon batch, and I ended up pulling off 8.5 gallons.
Oh,
so
that's
instead
a big distraction.
I just all of a sudden went, oh crap! Look, there's a lot of wort in there. So what I ended up doing, instead of kind of in retrospect, what I probably should have done is just boiled it and kind of boiled it down. But what I ended up doing was grabbing sugar like crazy because my numbers were way off. So first thing that goes in there is 1.5 pounds of corn sugar, and that got me to about I guess the 8.5 was about 11 Plato. So it was way off, and so added some sugar, got me to like 12 Plato, and I was like, damn, that's still not enough. So what else do I have on the shelf? I grabbed some D2 and dump that in. And so you got some...
That's the dark color right there, right?
Exactly. And
that D2 Belgian candy syrup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That explains a lot of those dark brown, dark sugar,
right.
coffee, caramel flavors.
Yeah. Which comes across as really good. So in retrospect, I'm like, wow, actually, this would probably be good to do. But after that, I still wasn't anywhere near what I wanted to be. So then I added 5 pounds of table sugar. So the cidery character, I think you're getting.
You're searching the house for sugar.
Yeah, exactly. It's like whatever I can.
What
find.
Do we got?
Whatever I can find to get the number up.
Neighbor, could I borrow a cup of D2?
Exactly. So I think the sugar is giving you that kind of cidery character.
Right. Yes, sugars can kind of do that sometimes in a beer that in the old days before the good techniques came along, they'd get a kit that came with a little can of malt and says, add a bunch of corn sugar if you have it, or table sugar, or whatever you got, and boost it up to the gravity you need. Measure it if you want or not.
That's alcohol.
And there's alcohol in there. Yeah. They could come across as a little cidery back in the day, but you don't taste a lot of beers like that anymore, and I don't encounter them very often as a judge because there's so many good brewers out there that know what they're doing and
except for me,
and know not to do that. Yeah.
But who actually got an amazingly good beer out of all that sugar? It's pretty good.
Yeah. So it ended up being immense too. So it was it was a 1091 starting gravity, so which is right at the top of the style. And then it finished real low too. It finished at 1017. So
it's big and dark and dry.
Yeah, it's about 10%. So
how does that work on? I think you just touched it, big and dark and dry. But how does that work on the mouthfeel? All that sugar and all that food for the yeast.
The biggest thing that pops out at me in the mouthfeel is a big warmth, and it's a big boy. It's a little hot from the higher alcohols that are in there, I think, but it's a full-bodied beer. There's a good level of medium high carbonation in there, and it's delivering all those flavors to your tongue. And the not very creamy and
Glug, glug.
Slightly astringent probably from the phenols that are in there, and maybe some of the darker malt elements that are in there. But yeah, a little bit warm for my taste for this style. But otherwise, for the most part, mouthfeel fair to middling for the style.
Is that a technical term?
Fair to middling, yeah. Now, I thought it was actually, initially, especially when the carbonation was up, and this thing was quite carbonated. You had a nice hiss on this thing. Came across this fairly full body. It's a little thinner now that it's been sitting in the glass for a while. It's pretty good creaminess, good head on it. It was definitely seemed a little drying. It wasn't really astringent. That's probably the alcohol coming through again. And I was picking up, I would say, in the flavor, I kind of skipped over that in my review here, but it came across a little in the mouthfeel, too, because it comes across there, sort of alcohol warming. Mm-hmm. Actually, I was getting more solventy than longer alcohols, more like kind of acetone, nail polish remover kind of character to the heat in here. It wasn't real strong, but that's kind of what I was picking up. So that's kind of one of the classic things that I guess can happen when you have a yeast fermenting in wort that's 50% sugar. Is it just the nutrition for the yeast isn't going to be there? It's going to start pumping out funky alcohols and solvents if you're not careful, especially when you're going for such a big beer. And the fact that you got so little of that is probably kind of a good thing. It was probably kind of lucky. It might have thrown off the one thing which seems to me to be kind of lacking in terms of being a really killer Weizenbock is the banana and the clove character, especially the banana. It's kind of low. It's there, but it's not really up front. The clovey flavors are a little stronger.
Right, and so I think what that comes from is I tend to swank a Weiss first when I do this beer, and then I pitch on top of that. But one of the things I do is really ferment pretty cool. So I ferment at 62, and that really suppresses the banana, and so it gives you a little bit of that clove. In this beer, you probably want a little bit more of that to come through because there's so much other stuff going on. So maybe a little warmer next time.
Yeah.
A little more banana might help it, yeah. We'll get into feedback later, but yeah.
All right, overall impressions. Brian, what do you think?
I think, to me, it was, with everything that it had going on and being so big and having dried out so much, all the flavors that are there are just very stark, and it dries off on your tongue, and you're left with these kind of clove phenol in the aftertaste. What I would like to see in this beer is definitely a little more banana. I was looking for and hunting for some kind of rich melanoidins in this, but not getting many. There's some in there, and it's usually you get that from the real good German malts, and maybe the sugars are taken away from that. I don't want to guess too much, but the beer is just a little bit muddled to me, but it's a pleasant drinking beer, and I would say I'll lighten it up a touch. Use fewer sugars, or you can't, when you're judging, you can't know what the recipe is, so this is a little weird not having this information. I would say you can get into what ifs forever. If you're adding a lot of sugars, don't add a lot of sugars to this. If you're if you're mashing at too low of a temperature, try mashing at a higher temperature. Use a less attenuative yeast to get a little more sweetness in the beer. There's a million ways you can get more sweetness in the beer, but not knowing the specifics now, I would just say add less of that sugar. Jeff, don't go scrounging your cupboard for that stuff.
Yeah. I think next time
let it be, or boil it longer. You gave yourself the feedback because you know how to brew, and yeah.
You agree with that, Lee?
Yeah, more or less. I'd probably have scored this like a 29 or 30, maybe a 32. For me, before I heard the story, well, maybe not too much. There were some good things about it. Before I heard Jeff's story, really what I was thinking is it just didn't have the yeast character. It didn't have the banana and the clove. It wasn't really there. The cocoa was nice, but it was kind of a little over the top with the dark malts for a Weizenbock.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people think Weizenbock is straight Schneider, Aventinus, and it's not that really.
Sure,
but, you can give it a little wider latitude than that. I think. I mean, like I said, there's some Weizenbocks out that are just big heifers these days. And most of the issues that I would have thought with this were really about the ferment and the little bit of solventy heat and the lack of the esters, which is kind of odd that you would get them in that combination, because usually when you get too much one, you get too much the other. And actually, the classic Schneider is very prone to having solventy character to it. It's actually a bit of a problem with that beer commonly. Knowing what I know from your story, The main thing I would have said for feedback to improve this was pitch some trapezies in here.
And just make it something else.
Make it something else.
Yeah.
Giant Belgium.
This would have had the makings of being a really cool dark strong.
Yeah.
Is that mainly, you think, from the D2?
Just from all that D2, all that sugar, that sort of bigger body with the drying alcohol finish, the drying finish from the higher alcohol levels and less body from the malt that's just not there for that strength. Yeah, that's probably pushing the sugar levels even for something like that. But once you go there, that's probably the kind of yeast, if you were picking a new, I would have put in there.
Right. Yeah.
You guys feel this in your chest, right? I mean, right here.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's that afterburn, and the
fear of a heart attack.
Brian's kind of fondling his thymus here.
I haven't taken a sip for 3 minutes here, and it's still working in there. I mean, that's something you feel all the way down in through the esophagus into your chest almost, and it's when you get a really warming beer, you should notice that.
So, what would you guys score this, Leah? I know you said around 29 or so.
29
Brian,
or 30, yeah.
Did you give a kind of a brief score and I missed it, or?
I would give it a 27.
27.
6 for aroma, 2 for appearance out of 3, 6 out of 12, 2 out of 3, 10 out of 20 for flavor, 3 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Not too much wrong there besides the little high warmth, and 6 out of 10 for overall impression. It's muddled, but it's drinkable, and it's it's beer. It's good, but it has some minor flaws and did miss. Well, it's more on style than it is. It's somewhat on style.
Off, yeah.
But yeah, the flaws are what's detracting from it a little bit. So, but they're not hellaciously ugly ones. They're just kind of detracting a bit.
The reason I picked that 29-30, that's sort of the threshold between giving it good or very good, which is whether it kind of misses the mark on style or not. And it's kind of sitting on the fence on that. I mean, the cocoa and the kind of cocoa-ish character and the lower esters were making me think this is maybe missing style, but it wasn't by a lot.
Right.
So a point either way, it's not that big a deal.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I thought too. It seemed like a beer that wanted to be one thing or the other. And now hearing the history of it, that kind of makes sense with the D2 and all the sugar and the lack of the yeast. To kind of it kind of should be one thing or the other, and instead it was two beers in one. So I kind of was right in the middle with you guys. I went 28, which I just wrote down right now because I want to make it sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Well, see, Lee's the closest to Jeff. You're probably second closest. He could reach out and strangle you.
I got all these mics
I've
in the
got
way.
Lee between us here.
Yeah.
The farther away you get from Jeff, the lower the scores go. Is there something to that?
You have no escape route, though.
And when I was on the session, I was sitting right next to what's that guy's name? And maybe I scored his beer a little higher when I was sitting over where Lee is, and you were sitting here, and you were lower. So
you want to be nicer when you're closer to the
system,
person.
Yeah,
I got you. It's their gravitational nonsense.
You just don't want to be near when those tears splash.
I'd score it a lot lower, so you guys are being quite generous.
Yeah,
because I know what happened. So
that's the classic thing. You know the flaws, and you're going to dump on it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
What was your base recipe? If you wouldn't mind handing that out.
Yeah, no, the base recipe is actually from Brewing Classic Style. So it's it was a German caramel wheat. There's 10 pounds of that. This is a 5-gallon batch. I actually used. It's funny you guys talked about the Belgian character, right? So I actually used a Belgian Pilsner malt. So I got 5 pounds of that. You probably can skip the 3 pounds of sugar. The German Munich malts, there's 2 pounds there. Again, probably skip the dextrose. I don't know about the Belgian candy sugar. I might actually do this again with the Belgian candy sugar, but skip the other ones. I think the character is kind of interesting for it.
I do like it.
It might. In a competition, it might differentiate it enough where it's like, wow, there's something interesting to that. And so I used a pound of that. 8 ounces of Special B, 8 ounces of a caramel 40 Love, and the chocolate comes from there's the pale chocolate, the UK pale chocolate. There's 4 ounces of that. And I used a German Hallertauer Herzbrucker, 2.5 ounces at 3.1 alpha acid, and I used the Weihenstephaner yeast, but I think again probably a little bit warmer next time to try to give it a little bit more banana character out of it.
And most of the hops were added early in the boil, or all?
Yeah. So I did a 90-minute boil because there's a Pilsner malt in there, and then pitched so I added about 60 minute hop addition, and then I fermented at 62. Mash temp was 151.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we didn't talk much about hops, but there really weren't much. There wasn't much to pick out there, and it was buried.
There really shouldn't be in this.
And there shouldn't be. Yeah. So, but you should comment completely if there's no hops on a judging sheet. If you're a judge, you should say, no hops detected in the aroma. And try to pick something out if you can in the flavor or whatever you get. At least the bitterness level. Comment on that, because there should be some bitterness in every beer that uses hops for 60 minutes. It's there. It might
just
be
a little bit
hidden, but yeah.
Any questions for these guys, Jeff? Or are you pretty squared away on what? Obviously, you know what went wrong, but was it really wrong? It sounds like you have a new beer recipe out of this.
No, I think it may. I think the D2 is interesting to it. No, I think I learned a couple of things here, which I'll probably do it again and try to tweak it a little bit.
Cool. All right.
Yeah,
well, thanks a lot, man, for bringing the beer and for more importantly coming down to the studio.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
And we're up against another break, and when we come back, we'll do a little mini wrap-up and kind of just review what we've learned and hear me stutter over my words again. It's Dr. Homebrew. Hang on a sec.
Where can you still find $7.95 nationwide shipping, a friendly, knowledgeable staff, and all of the stuff to brew for less? Homebrew Stuff. Isn't the Homebrew Stuff a sexual maneuver? Homebrew Stuff is the largest homebrew supplier in the Northwest and can be found in Garden City, Idaho, and online at homebrewstuff.com. Equipment and ingredients for brewing beer and wine, soda and liquors, books, instructional DVDs, beginner kits, and a great selection of grain and hops. Homebrew Stuff also has dozens of free videos online to help make brewing easier. Visit homebrewstuff.com now for the best prices with their match or beat guarantee. BN Army members can take 10% off their first order with the coupon code BNARMY. Kegs, regulators, faucets, towers, carboys, conicals, barrels, you name it. Get your homebrew stuff for less at homebrewstuff.com. Homebrew Stuff. Not a sexual maneuver. Just the best prices and great service on all the stuff you need. Homebrewstuff.com.
Hi, I'm Jamel Zainasheff, and in addition to my work on the Brewing Network, I write the style profile column in every issue of Brew Your Own magazine. Hi, I'm Sean Paxton, and when I'm not prepping for the Homebrewed Chef on the Brewing Network, you can find me writing articles on how to cook with your homebrew for Brew Your Own magazine.
Greetings, cretins. This is John Palmer, and when I'm not writing for Brew Your Own, I'm reading it.
John Palmer, Sean Paxton, Jamil Zainasheff. If you love listening to them on the Brewing Network, you'll love reading their articles, tips, and recipes in the pages of Brew Your Own magazine. Join Jamil, John, and Sean 8 times a year in Brew Your Own. And when you subscribe to BYO on the Brewing Network website, half of your subscription price goes right back to the BN to support great beer and food programming. So sign up for Brew Your Own magazine through the BN website today so you can listen and read your way to better homebrew.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. It is Dr. Homebrew, and like I said, again, I'm going to slur my words and stumble over them. Why? Because I am not confident. I have to go to the bathroom. I can't tell which is which. They both kind of feel the same to me.
It's our fearless leader.
Yeah, I know, right? So we have covered two pretty good beers, both very different from what I've had, and from the styles that they said that they were. One was from our earlier guest, Mark, and he had the caramel apple spiced winter warmer 5% beer.
Pale ale.
Pale ale, yeah. And so just, we want to kind of wrap up everything, just give some general advice, recap what we told Mark, and then give some kind of, some little tidbits here and there. So why don't you guys go over again with us what Mark could do to hopefully bump his beer up a little bit.
Well, bump it up. I mean, I think the summary on what we kind of had to say about improving his beer was don't change it that much. It was pretty nice as it was. This is the main thing we might think about is changing the category you entered it in as a style. It really wasn't a pale ale.
Yeah.
And I think trying to make it into, especially an American pale ale, it'd be too much hops. It'd clash with all that other stuff you put in there. It'd probably be horrible with those spices. It'd mask all the apple. It would change it into something else. Probably wouldn't be as good. So just maybe consider reclassifying it.
And that's based on the core flavors?
Based on the flavors in that beer. I mean, it was apple, it was spice, it had a lot of caramel, it was sort of a nice mid-amber color with a sort of caramel, darker malt, or medium malt flavors you'd expect with that.
Mm-hmm.
Those, I mean, you'd find that more in an amber ale if you want to stick American, or, British bitters, pale ales, although the bittering level wasn't that high in this beer, which was probably fine given all that apple and spice there. You wouldn't want to push up the bittering much or it might mask it. So Irish Reds, Scottish ales, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
American amber ales, those would all be good things to maybe potentially class this beer as.
Okay.
I think that was just changing the style you call it. It'd be, from a judging perspective, would be a good thing. From a tasting perspective, I think that was pretty good. Maybe get the carbonation up a bit and maybe put it through a filter or something. I don't know. That's about it.
Yeah, the obvious things other than style would be the color of it, or the clarity of it, and the level of carbonation, which would help deliver that a little better. But yeah, anyone ever had one of those? What is it, like apple pie in a bottle, kind of like liqueurs that you can make homemade with a certain recipe or something, and it's just like you drink it and it tastes like apple pie. And I don't know what it's called, but that's what this reminded me of. Sometimes people give it out at the holidays as a gift and whatever.
Sounds like a pregnancy waiting to happen.
Maybe in England. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. So it's got those kind of elements, and I'd like to see a little more beeriness, or at least it fitting the defined style. And it should be, don't change it much. It tastes great as it is, but make it a style that works with that, and maybe, like I said earlier, bring out something that has some caramelly aspects, a little more caramelly aspects to the style, like an American amber ale, or one of the maltier English or Scottish styles, and would work really well. But yeah, maybe try mixing with some different beers, and and see what you like at home there, Mark. But yeah. Good job.
Jeff, what do you think? You agree with those guys, or
they're the masters?
Totally disagree.
No,
they are masters.
You gotta agree with the masters. I think, there was a lot of apple cider character. I mean, it really, when I first smelled it, I was like, wow, this is nice cider. So bringing out a little bit of the beer character, figuring out what that is, getting some more, figuring out what that. It's definitely not pale, as these guys said. It's definitely more. I would go more English. I think the apple character is kind of more of an English style. I think try to accentuate those pieces, but and probably clear it up a little bit for us here. It was a little cloudy and a little chunky, but that's probably just transportation. Otherwise, I thought it was nice.
Yeah, I would agree with everybody. And so Mark did, and like an idiot, I forgot to get Mark's recipe, so he did email it over. So. He had a lot of good flavors, and I would really like to kind of get his recipe out there, and maybe it can inspire you guys. So I think it was for a 5-gallon batch. He says 5 pounds of pale malt Maris Otter, 4 pounds German Munich, 1 pound C20, 1 pound C60, 1 pound flake rye, half a pound of LME, half a pound of cane sugar. And then in the hops for 60 minutes, he has 0.75 ounces of Cascade. And for last 15 minutes, he has 0.5 of Willamette, and I believe he told me it was a 17 IBU. And then he put 4 cups of apple cider in there, 3 apples cut into small pieces, with 3 cinnamon sticks and 4 ounces of vodka to make a tincture with the cinnamon. And his yeast was WP 011 European Ale. His mash was 154 for 60 minutes. Then he says recirculate till clear, then pull off 1 gallon of wort and boil it down to about half, and add that to the boil kettle with the rest of the wort.
So he's trying to get some kettle caramelization going on by boiling the thickest part of the mash.
Yeah, that's what that means. That's what he did.
I've seen that with some Scottish ales and things, trying to like a wee heavy or something, trying to beef it up like that, or some English.
So question, did he say when he added those whole apples?
He did in the secondary. Yeah, for 4 days. And then he says, make a caramel out of the LME and sugar. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Okay.
I was like, why would you put half a pound of LME in there when you could just throw some, whatever.
Exactly.
So he's making a caramel sauce kind of out of the LME and the sugar, then add that to the boil 10 minutes before the end of the boil. His OG was 1054, his final was 1020. Which kind of was surprising to me, considering how dry that beer tasted. But I don't know, maybe
a good amount of enough residual sweetness to carry the flavors. Yeah.
Well, the spices will kind of dry it out a bit too.
Okay.
They should make that caramel again when he serves it and put it with a dessert. Make a beer-related dessert with the LME and the sugars and do
put it
again.
over apple pie.
Absolutely.
Or over some vanilla ice cream, and he's got apple pie and ice cream.
Make a vanilla ice cream float with this stuff.
Ooh, yummy.
Actually, I'm wondering if the apples in the secondary, if you put apples or fruit in your kettle, you can get pectins, which will haze like crazy. I'm kind of wondering if you might have got some of that. Secondary, I wouldn't necessarily think so, but...
No, it shouldn't. The pectins shouldn't set like that. But
I don't know if you get much of that in cider if you boil that. So
yeah,
you can get a lot in cider.
No,
cider you're pressing it out, you're pressing it away from the fruit material. But here, the fruit material is going directly into the beer, so maybe some of that breaks down. I don't know.
Yeah. I just made a real dumb joke again. Sorry.
Went right over our heads.
Let's go to Jeff's beer, his Weizenbock, or his Weizen Trappist. I think is what it was. What recommendations do we have for him? It was some yeast, right? It would have been better with some of those this classic Weizenbock banana clovey kind of flavors, right?
Yeah, bump up that banana kind of the classic flavor.
Well, so actually,
cloves were there, but go ahead.
See, first off, watch the sparge next time.
Yeah,
that would be the first piece of advice. That's a good point.
Yep, watch that sparge. But yeah, it did need, to me, the warmth that was very intense, and maybe I'm sensitive to it, with all the flavors that were going on and the dryness of it. To me, the balance was a little off overall, and it needed to be more balanced. It was very dark, very, very dry, and very warm, almost hot. It was kind of hot. So that combination made for a Weizenbock can be warming, and it should be warming, but it needs to be very smooth at the same time. So to smooth this one out, you definitely want to take care of your yeast and pitch a big, healthy yeast culture with the gravity that you obviously had in this. Maybe lighten up the gravity so the yeast doesn't have as much to chew through, and you can get some of that smoothness that way. And just carefully watch your fermentation temperature and keep it even, and you can gradually increase the fermentation temperature at the end of fermentation to get the keep your yeast a little happier, a little longer, and kind of absorb some of the off flavors and things that are going on from the beginning of the fermentation that get kicked out from the yeast. So
Lee?
Well, having got to where you got with it, to me the darker character, the cocoa flavor was a little intense for this style. Maybe not that much, but that, along with the clovey phenols, was kind of really that synergy kind of makes that stick out more on the palate than it should with the cocoa and the clove. So I think that was a little bit off-putting for me. It wasn't really bad, but it really wasn't what I expected to be there. And a good Weizenbock is going to be really mouth-filling, full, creamy, rich, even. The final gravity is only 10, 15, or 16, maybe 20. I don't know. So it's not usually that high because these usually are like Doppelbock 1080, 1090 beers. They're usually 1070, 1080, something like that. So a little fuller body, a little more would bring a little more creaminess, especially with the high carbonation levels you get in that, and all that wheat just pushes up a huge foamy head. And this beer doesn't have that. And given all the sugar in there, it's not surprising. That's kind of what kept this from, in terms of just going at it blind like I did at first, from being a really good Weizenbock. It needed more of that fullness and creaminess and the yeast character to it.
All right. Pretty solid overall. Well, I do want to thank Mark and, of course, Jeff for, again, not only coming down in person, but to be bald with me. And I appreciate that a lot. No, seriously, thanks for bringing beer, guys. And if you guys out there in beer radio land want to be guests on Dr. Homebrew, just like Mark and Jeff, email me at jp@thebrewingnetwork.com, and I'll get you all the information you need. Thanks for tuning in. This, of course, has been Dr. Homebrew.